Hey everybody, it's me coming on strong. Hope you're feeling blessed no matter where you are. So I'm coming on today because this is something that took place that I feel like I've talked about a bit, but I need to talk about a bit more. And I'm going to kind of give, like, on this side, some visuals to help you guys along. Okay, this is going to be our chakra conversation, because the chakras are so important in our life and we don't realize why. Now, I have to preface this with saying, most of my life, even as I went on my spiritual journey, I read about chakras. I learned about chakras, or I thought I learned about chakras, but it was all in a book. You know, I'm reading the book. I'm like, oh, energy centers. This is all fantastic. And yet, at the end of the day, I never seen a chakra. I didn't know what a chakra was. I didn't understand why this was such a big deal. Okay. So everything I'm going to talk about today, please let me preface this by saying, this is a self-lived explanatory experience that I will relate to things you go through in life so that you can understand how you can enliven these chakra centers. And what I will say is that if you do it properly, you'll notice different things happening for you. And that's how I realized that, oh, I opened up chakras. I stabilized chakras. I did different things, because before that, they were just terms. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because yesterday, I go out with my friends for a birthday party. And, you know, us chicas, we don't get together all the time. It's like for each other's birthdays here and there. But there was some women that were at this party that I hadn't seen for a bit, several years, at least more than 5 years. And we went to karaoke. And we were singing, and I was singing this couple songs, and these women were like, what the fuck happened to your voice? They're like, we used to go with you to karaoke. Like, did you take classes? Did something happen for you or happen to you? Or what's going on? And I was like, oh, I opened up my throat chakra, and then all of a sudden I could sing. And they're looking at me like, what? Like, what's the throat chakra? What do you mean? Like, how did that happen? So it got me thinking, because it was something I lived through. It was something I experienced, and I wouldn't have ever been able to explain it before the fact. So I'm going to explain it now. So when I was not really aware of what was going on in the spiritual world, in meaning my everyday, right? I didn't have a place for understanding what a chakra system was. So there are 7 chakras. Realistically, there's probably more, because our hands can also have energy, but I won't go into all of that. I'll just deal with the 7 because it's the easiest to explain. And these are applications that you can use in your everyday life if you're willing to, because that's how some of your gifts come, is by enlivening these chakras or these energy centers in your body. It's like as if, like, think about your body, kind of like, I always relate it to this, okay? Like, let's say, for example, if this suit you're wearing has like different forms of gifts or armor that can be unlocked as you go through your life, if you figure out what practices to accomplish or things to do in order to enliven them, that's how they get enlivened and opened up for you and useful. That's what I'm trying to say. So we'll start off with the roots. Here's a picture. Okay, it's seen as a red. I believe it's red. Now, they say that this has to do with the root. If you think about roots, the strength, right? The solidarity, what plants into the ground, right? Now, when I was first coming onto my journey a million years ago, you know, I used to sit there and go reading about, and we didn't have Google. You had to read in books or find what you could. And it was like, oh, go into the forest or like outside, and you're going to be like meditating. And as you're meditating, you're going to believe and look and see all this beautiful roots growing out of your body, and you're going to transplant them into the ground and all that jazz. Okay. So I used to do it all the time. I'd visualize and all that stuff. And you know what? Nothing against it, but it really wasn't what needed to take place in my life for it to actually come alive. And what I'm going to teach you and what I'm going to tell you are things you can apply in your everyday, but they are not easy. Just letting you know. Everything I mention here is about self-exploration, sacrifice, but the sacrifice you make is towards yourself, your truest self. So everything is not a sacrifice in the long run because you realize, oh, it was something I should have done a long time ago. So the root, if you think about it like 4 pillars, if you think about it as a structure, if you think about it as the foundation of any building, etc., you need something that's sturdy. You need something that's strong. And usually that has to do with foundations, meaning like your liquidity, like your business, your money, your means of making your way through the world, your friends, your family, and your environment, okay? Like, I'll just give you those four, okay? Now, what you have to understand is those four things have to be as strong as possible for your root to open up, or at least stabilize, meaning like everything about it is stabilized to the point that you can always progress higher, but it can never be undone. And once you structure it, once it's structured, your root chakra automatically will open up, okay? So how someone does this is simple. You just target these things. And let's say if the liquidity, I find the liquidity comes at the end, just because a lot of when you do this type of change of environment, friends and family, you'll notice that the liquidity, because sometimes it means a shift in your actual profession, or a shift in your career, or a shift in your actual path in life, okay? So friends and family and your environment, okay? If you do not have people that are fighting for you, people that love you unconditionally, people that love you for every facet, every weirdness, every crick in your, in every, you know, oddity or whatever it is that you are, okay? And I put those words in, it's not to be like negative, okay? It's just, we all have these things, these eccentricities, you know, but that's what makes us ideal. That's what makes us amazing. That's what makes us unique. But, you know, there's always these naysayers and there's always these haters and these shitters, you know what I mean? That are always like, oh, like, what are you doing? It's so like blah, 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 right? About you and what you want to do as a function in your life. Now, what I will say about these three, at all costs, okay? And when I mean all costs, what will happen usually through the ascension period, God will be taking you by the hand to try to show you how to solidify these three first, okay? So if you have friends that are not for you, and I mean people that nag you, people that harass you, even if it's micro harassments, even if it's micro scapegoating, people that do not try to benefit you, that try to suck you dry and then try to turn it around as if they're being the best thing for you. Or there are people who will be there in the moment, but then when other persons come around, they're not there for you. There's so many different ways of describing what bad people are. And we try to excuse all the behaviors. But really, on the flip side of that, we know who's really for us. Okay. And ironically, for some reason, as every form of self-sabotage in our lives work, because it boils down to deeper seated problems and issues from our childhood, from our lives, where we feel like if we have more people in our corner or in our lives, the better off we are. And that's actually a falsity. Because if you have 100 people that are not truly for you, you have the weakest foundation ever. But if you have 2 solid friends, ride or dies, you know, that's better than 100 naysayers and 100 wannabes and 100 scapegoaters and 100 fluffies. And when I say fluffies, I mean fluffy people. They have no substance and they literally are just there for the moment or when you're doing well. So if you can really understand that if you have all of these extras in your life, the first and solid move you can make is to eradicate, meaning like just excommunicate them, just rid of them, just don't communicate, just get yourself free, whatever way that may be, from these extra parties, because all they're doing is wasting your time, wasting your energy, and they're making you contemplate and second guess who you truly are. They don't really love you. So that's the first thing. Same goes for the family. Okay. Yes, you can't cut family off. You got to go to the weddings. You got to go to the baby showers. You got to go to the funerals. You got to do the whole processions. But what you don't have to do is engage with them. What you don't have to do is be a part of everything they do. You don't have to call and you don't have to send them a Christmas letter. You know what I'm saying? So the same way you would treat the friends is the same way you would treat the family. If they are not for you, if they spend their time criticizing you, if they spend their time nagging you, and when I say nagging, I mean people that shoot out what they think are compliments. They're really just negative remarks formed in the way of a somewhat backhanded comment or criticism. So if you have those people in your family, I don't care if they're your mom, your dad, whoever, try to distance yourself as much as possible and only shape your world with those that truly love you, that are there for you. Like when I say there for you, I mean like you could call up and say, hey bro, I gotta move in 2 days. Can you be there for me? And they will make whatever moves they can to be there for you. No excuses necessary. Okay. Those are the 2 foundations or the 2 pillars, right? That first come. You have to make sure that those 2 pillars are strong. If you got a bunch of weak bitches in these pillars, you're not going to open your root chakra. Okay. And this is hard because for a lot of us, like I said, we have these fears. We have things that kind of stir in our world, make us think like, oh, the more people we know, the more we command, the more we have, the more followers, the more this. But realistically, if no one's really for you, they're not really useful and they're just draining you. So that has to take place. So then the environment happens. Sometimes you can be in a bad environment, be it like you live in a bad area, or you could live in the best area, but you could live in an area where everyone around you is a social piranha, or everyone around you is just keeping up with the Joneses, or everyone around you doesn't think like you do, isn't progressive like you. So what I'm trying to say about environment, it's like, what's best for you? Like if you're a polar bear, you belong in the Antarctic. You know what I'm saying? You don't belong in New York City. It's kind of trying to say finding the place where you belong the most. And it doesn't matter because whatever place you end up, if you have to move or shift or go to a different neighborhood, or even if it's to move a house or to redo your house, you know, something, it's the environment that is best suited for you. Like let's say you have a house that is full of trinkets and things that do not describe who you are as a person, and really you're an artsy person, and really you want a craft room, and really you want a garage that you can do tinkering in. All of these things shape your environment that are to be fruitful for your beginnings, for your life path, what you truly feel inside. And if that around you doesn't shape that, or let's say the house you live in, or the environment and the people and the community and all of that does not like work with you, you might and you will have to reconsider maybe a change. That's to do with the third, which is the environment. And you'll notice as you do these three, right? The same will happen for the fluidity when it comes to money, your career, your job, your means, how you get those means, okay? Some of you could be in a dead-end job. Some of you could be in a great job. Some of you could be in a career you don't want to be in. Some of you want to make a shift out, but you're scared. There's so many variations, but the point is that if you have all these three working for you, you'll notice you have more people in your corner. You'll notice you have family that backs you and supports you. And you notice you have an environment that kind of gives you the energy and the whimsy to be who you want to be. And when you have those three working for you, you'll notice that the liquidity changes. Because when everybody's working for you and with you, there's a lot less stress, there's a lot less to worry about, and that goes a long way to your mental happenings. And when your mental happenings are better and brighter, you tend to think of what are the possibilities for the fourth, meaning the liquidity. Could I move to another job? Could I go to a different career? Could I maybe ask for a raise? Could I just jump out of the career completely? So you having these three strong pillars, like a tripod at this point, start to really make and shift how you work with liquidity. And it would be more advantageous because you would notice that things come to you, because you realize even if at work, if you're not following the same structure, like let's say your environment also represents your work. And if your work environment sucks, and you're miserable every time you go, you've got to cut it out, cut that shit out, because that's the only way that you can be rooted, strength included in the root. The root will not flourish. It will not grow. You will not be able to make your roots grow properly in the earth in your meditation if you don't have those four things in place. It's more of a practical dissertation on how to do this in the physical world. It's a representation in the physical world, and it's not just about the wishy-washy, oh, let's just visualize it all. You're visualizing a world where that root is strong, truly. Okay, next we have our sacral chakra. So the sacral, a lot of us have to think that it all has to do with sex. But really and truly, it does partially. Don't get me wrong, it does partially. But what it also includes is things like male and female dynamic, meaning that all of us as souls, all of us as beings have a male and female dynamic in the sense of energy. And that seems to be where where it begins to a degree, is where you start to realize how do you balance your masculine, feminine energy. Comes from the sacral. Because we can even see, even in a sexual form, a lot of us find our feminine and our masculine energies within the boudoir, the bedroom. You could probably be the dominant one. You could be the submissive one. You could be you could be whatever you want to be in the bedroom. You get what I'm saying? But that's not all that includes, okay? I'll talk about that a little bit more, but it also includes creativity. The same spark of why you can be whoever you want to be in the bedroom, because it's somewhat of a sanctity. It's somewhat of a secret place of your novelty of expressing yourself in a different type of way and energy. Like, we go off in our day-to-day, we wouldn't be wearing the same things we wear in the bedroom as we do outside. I'm just giving you an example. We're using the same tools or the same things we do in the bedroom. So there's a performance there. There's a part of creativity. There's a self-expression, an openness that you receive from your sacral chakra, from your sacral being. You get what I'm saying? So creativity is another one. A lot of us that maybe don't perform in any way, let's say you could even be someone who's celibate and doesn't really partake in the whole sexual act, you'll notice that energy starts to transform into more creative endeavors, because it's like you're putting that energy out in a different way. And that's how the sacral chakra can be enlivened as well. Now, how you hinder your sacral chakra is with sleeping with people without purpose. Okay, I will say that, because you could be in a loveless marriage, you could be a one-night stander, you could be a person who has frivolous relationships, you could be a ghoster, you could be somebody that's too intimidated to be with emotions and you're so scared, but you'll have sex. So there's so many variations of how we don't actually qualify or give ourselves any type of credence or feelings of cradling that self, that sexual self, or that vulnerable self, because we're giving away strings of energy to all these persons sometimes, or we're giving that main string of energy to the wrong person. Maybe it's somebody that you don't feel as open as you can be in that place. And that also stifles you and allow you to be as heightened as you can be. Because with the right partner, with the right, situation, you can allow yourself to be as creative as you like. So what I will say is that about the sacral chakra, there's some things that you have to understand. Like when people talk about piety and things like that, that's not exactly what it is, because you could be somebody who likes to just sleep with multiple people. Yes, there's nothing against it. It's a free world. You could do what you want. But if you, in your heart of hearts, really are looking for things like love and comfortability and security and, let's say, some type of togetherness, and you're using that energy in a form of like, I'm going to put out here, put out here, put out here, hoping that will create what I really want, you're actually just giving out energy and you're not receiving back anything of what you truly desire. And desire is big when it comes to sacral. Your desires need to manifest. It's the same with the creative energy. So if you're desiring to be in a whole relationship, or you're desiring to be like with somebody you truly love, or you're desiring to be with multiple people to express yourself, right? You could do that too, but it has to do with the intent. The desire behind it has to match. So that way it's like the energy goes out and comes back. It goes out and comes back. If you're just giving out, then you're really stifling the sacral chakra. If you're somebody who's like, I just want to explore, and that is your true want, and you're not doing anything to hurt anybody, and you're very upfront, then your sacral will be kind of intact, because you're not going out there to do something against your desire. Now, if, like I said, on the flip side, if you're somebody who desires a relationship, but you think like, if I put out and I put out and I put out, I'll capture that, and it's not coming back truly, then you're going to be expelling all that sacral chakra energy out, and you're not going to be receiving anything back other than, let's say, bad feelings because you're rejected, or you're not finding what you're really looking for. So then it starts to dampen the actual energy center as a whole. So I'm not going to judge anybody, but it's just understanding that there's a lot of responsibility with who and what and why you do what you do in a sexual capacity. And if you're not sexual, then realistically you channel it into a creative endeavor. Because if you're not being creative either, let's say you're not sleeping with anybody and you're not being creative, then that starts to get that whole energy center really, really, really not just stifled, but like fiery and like sparking in the wrong ways, and it has nowhere to channel, it has nowhere to go, and it can be dysfunctional because realistically you try to work through like a kundalini, or you try to work upward, right, like through that system, and all have to flow like a river. And if you don't, let's say, channel the energy, what happens is you create a dam. And if you create a dam, then it blocks the energy, and then all it can do is shoot down and disrupt your root. So that's what I'll say about sacral energy. It is very powerful, but at the same time, it has to be channeled in a proper way. Not judgmental way, just proper to yourself, self-love, self-understanding, and really being honest with yourself about what you really want with it. Okay? The next one, the solar plexus. The solar plexus. This one has to do with will. Okay? Will to be. Will to, live. Will to get up in the morning. Will to strive. Will is such a varied term because it has so many different facets to it. But the will, it can be compartmentalized into different fractions of self. But realistically, it's your will to exercise whatever it is that you want to be. So for myself, I know that will was very, very obstructed when I didn't understand how the system all worked, okay? I didn't have a really good root back in the day, and my sacral was all over the place, and my will was all fragmented. And the thing about will is that you can become very closed-minded with will sometimes because you're not really understanding the functioning of what will is in its entirety. Will is powerful. Will is like faith in itself, like a belief. It's a very strong aptitude. So when you will something into creation, or you will something into being, it is basically like saying it will be done. It's a huge part of manifestation. You cannot manifest anything in this world without the will to do it, or the will to be it. Okay? People think that manifestation is just about, again, that thinking is like the root. Oh, I just think about it and it will be. No. When you think about will, it's like, if, let's say, for example, I'm going back to the gym, right? I'm losing weight again. I've been up and down my whole life, but I have to will myself to get up to go to the gym because I want to achieve the body back to what I want. I can't just think about it. I can't just take Ozempic. I can't just do the easier things to actually get what I want. What I want is a certain thing. What I want to manifest is a certain thing. And I have to will myself into the actions that will create it. And that's just an example of what I mean about how will is used. But the will to be yourself, the will to go after things, the real big ticket things that you want in this world. Like for myself, I'll say, okay, I willed myself to be on this channel. I willed myself to become a light bearer and to do the type of work I do. And if I didn't have a strong root, and if I didn't have my sacral using its creative energy to get me where I am right now, then my will would be dwindled. If I still had naysayers and everybody from my root talking some smack, then my will would be dwindled. So realistically, you have to understand, think of all of this like a building, like a house. It's like you have to start with one framework to get to the next framework, to get to the third framework where we are right now with the solar plexus. It is the will to be oneself. It is the will to be all that you can be at any given time. And that is not easy. To walk into a place and be you is one of the hardest things for any of us to be. However, the will to do it is the biggest strength. Because when you can walk into somewhere and be yourself, authentically, looking around and just being you, it brings a form of admiration from others. Even though people might not understand you, they still respect you. There's so many things that come with the solar plexus. It's will to engage in the umpteenth imaginatory ability of manifestation. So without that capability, it's like they call it yellow and the sun for a reason. It's like where the fire inside burns to get anything done in your life, be it to pursue what you're doing that day, or to pursue those longer goals, or to pursue the thrive for your family. All of it has to do with the solar plexus. So having a directive purpose for it, and actually having it work in congruency with all the other systems, is how things come to pass and to be. So realistically, like I said, you're forming the foundation, and the will to continue on is how you get through the other chakras. So I'll leave that with the solar plexus. Now the next, the heart. Now this one is phenomenal, okay? Because the heart is the hardest one, to maintain, it's the hardest one to keep open at times, and it's the hardest one to keep a good balance with, because like I said with the sacral, when you're trying to do the masculine and feminine energies, the heart equally has to be respected and protected. Okay, respect, protect. You need to understand that you don't close off a heart because you got hurt. You don't close off a heart because you got hurt 20 times, 10 times, 5 times, 1 time. The whole purpose of the heart is to learn, to grow, to not turn bitter, because that's going against your heart chakra. Your heart chakra is the epicenter. It gives off the most electromagnetic force that you could ever find on a body. Okay, and this is scientifically proven. I think I'll probably put that up here. It exudes like 10 times, 100 times the amount of wattage that any other part of our bodies can. So when you love something really deeply, there's an insistence, there's a drive, and again, solar plexus falls right into that. You have to understand, willing to love someone is huge. And I don't mean like to have love for people. I mean, you can always have love for people, but what's harder is to have love for yourself and have love for others. And be in love is 3 different things, 3 different formations of this love. Love is an all-encompassing emotion. It encompasses all the negative emotions and the positive emotions. You're basically trying to balance, right, the negative emotions that you feel sometimes, turning it inwardly and transmuting it into love. Like I said in past, our negative emotions are also part of love. Like if you envy somebody, it's because there's something about them that you love so much, meaning you wish you could be like, that causes you to be envious. If you're jealous of somebody, it's because you love that person, place, or thing so much that you're jealous. You don't want to lose them. You don't want something to change. You don't want them to go away because of how much you love them. Right? It is a negative formation of love, but it's still part of love, because you could not be jealous if you don't love somebody. And equally, hate. You cannot hate anybody if you don't love them first, or you don't have love in some capacity. Hate is such a strong word. We use it so flimsy and, flamboyantly, but really to hate something is because within you, it's this undying pressure to have something negatively transform onto another being or place or thing. You have to have loved or had these pie in the sky or pious thoughts or belief in something being so amazing for you to then turn it into its ugly half sister of hate. You get what I mean? So when you're dealing with the heart chakra, you're always trying to balance that protective nature, because you want to protect your heart, right? You want it to be represented, but you need to protect it too, but you don't close it and you don't become bitter. It's a balancing act that is very, very, very beautiful, but it is the most resilient of all, because all of us have been hurt at one time or another, or many times in our lives. And sometimes it's to weaken us. It's to tell us that love doesn't exist. And realistically, it's because I've said this in past. These chakras alivening, if you can get them to flow, to open, all the parts of the river open up, okay? Beautifully, without any constriction, without any dams, without any thinning of that river. That makes you a very bad mama jamma, okay? That makes you, to the spiritual enemies you have in your life, fearsome. Because you can control that awesome power of love within you to give out to the world and to expel even exponentially. And that is something that all those negative entities or whatever on the other side, they're trying to dampen that all the time. That's really what this world is constricted to do. Because if we all just loved each other, all of this would go away. But loving each other is the hardest thing for some fucking reason. We don't know why. It seems like so easy peasy when you say it out loud. But it is one of the hardest things. And the powers that be, not just in the physical, in the spiritual, know that it's such a fragile thing, love. We're so scared of breaking our hearts. We're so scared of being hurt by the biggest energy center we have. It's the most powerful energy center, so we protect it with a ferociousness and a fierceness that we can't even understand. Sometimes we'll end up like so scared of people, and just with names and constrictions and boxes and objections, that we're like, oh no, if these people get near me, maybe they'll hurt me. That's really what the little kid's saying inside, and that's why we end up putting up these barriers, and we end up protecting ourselves in ways that don't allow the love in. in any form or fashion that is like in a micro sense or a medium sense or even a magnitude sense. Because if we're so scared of being hurt, if we're so scared of feeling love, if we're so scared of giving it away, then ultimately we close it up, we dampen it, we make it so small, and it only goes boom, 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 boom. When really, if we were to open it up, it would be like boom, boom, boom. It would give off energy, frequency that can transform anything. So the heart chakra, I would say, even for myself, is one that I'm challenged with. And I know that the spiritual side of my life has done this. I know that a lot of us have these complications within our lives to ensure that we close it smaller and smaller. But realistically, the one thing I can say is that when we're given the opportunity to love in a space that doesn't feel like there's any restraint or there's any fear, we are ferociously, fearsomely loving as human beings. Like, I'll give you an example. Why is it, and I'm not talking about crazy psychopaths, I'm talking about the average, okay? Why do we love our animals so deeply? You ever wonder that? Because they're not as intellectually in tune with us. You know what I mean? They, we admire them for all the gifts they give us. But here's the thing, we don't feel like they're going to attack us. I mean, they're going to hurt us, they're going to walk away. Yes, there'll come a day that they die. But we give our love so easily to these animals, to these creatures, because we don't fear that they're going to retaliate. We don't fear that they're going to hurt us. Truly. Yes, they could bite us, yes, they could scratch us, yes, but that's something that they don't even mean to do, or something that we perceive and understand that that's like a animalistic instinct in them, and we know that they're malicious, we know that there's no intent behind it to actually hurt us. So when we have all those walls dropped, we easily give freely love comes back and forth, and we're not protecting it with animals. So that's why sometimes they use things like equine therapy. They use things like dog therapy, animal therapy in general, because that's a way for people to actually open that part of themselves up, knowing and feeling safe enough to do it. Because some of us have been through so much trauma that to even allow others in is the challenge. It's like, that's what I'm saying. The heart is one of the most tricky of the chakras to even open up. So don't ever put it past yourself and think like, oh, I'm just a all giving, all loving person. You may be, and it might be because your life afforded you that beauty. Maybe you lived amongst beautiful human beings that never shattered your heart. But for those of us that have grown up in different lifestyles and different ways of being, or have seen a lot of malicious people, or have had our hearts broken numerous times, it's really hard to just give freely. And learning to find that balance and learning to open that up, even if it's with baby steps, even if it's in a sense of like learning how to love even in the scariest places. And that's one that I'm challenged with, that I continuously try to challenge every day, is learning how to give of myself in a loving capacity in the places that maybe in past were different, and maybe in past I didn't do. And now seeing that yesterday was yesterday and today is today, and I have to try, taking those baby steps to love those that I think in past would have hurt me, but today is different and they're not going to do it this time. So the heart is the most powerful, but it is the most secretive, and it is the most awesome place to start. But if you can open it up and start to let those barriers fall, that lotus will blossom, and it is powerful. Then next, what comes is your throat. And this was the one that I was talking about the singing. Okay. So I was never able to sing for about 36 years. And I mean like off key, never could hold a tune, screech whenever I would try to attempt a note. And couldn't barrel out a real song. And now I can. And now I speak my truth. Now I say things like it is, and I mean it from a wholehearted place. I'm not trying to get back at people. I'm not trying to be malicious. I'm not trying to be coming from a place of egoism, or even from a place of passive aggressiveness. That was my horrifying dysfunction before I came onto this journey 3-4 years ago. I was very passive aggressive, and a lot of us are passive aggressive. We have all these thoughts and all these wants and all these desires in our mind, but we don't speak them out. We don't ask for what we want. We don't do anything that we really want to do. And what happens is we stifle that voice and we keep swallowing. And that's why sometimes, not for nothing, we end up in things like vices, like drinking, especially. To all my homies out there. Mrs. I drank a borracho over here. I drank because of that swallowing all the time. Vices of drugs, smoking, whatever, eating, all of it has to do with the swallowing of yourself, swallowing of your truth, not saying how you feel. And the thing is that what people think is like, oh, but I tell it like it is. But yes, when you tell it like it is it coming from a place of anger? Is it coming from a place of like, I'm not heard enough, so I have to scream over you? There's so many places and realizations as to why and how you speak your truth. Are you saying it in a diplomatic way? Are you saying it in a passive way? Are you saying it in a soft way, a loud way? Is any of those ways really you? And the thing is that we use vices sometimes to let that version of us out. And realistically, I can say in the last 4 years, how I realized my throat when my singing voice came out, right? That was the physical manifestation of me realizing that that energy center had opened. And it was because of fighting tooth and nail, scratching at every surface. And I meant that wholeheartedly. It started with the root, moved to the sacral, moved to the solar plexus, moved to all the work of my heart, to get to the point where I could say it like it is, not hurt anybody, not meaning to be of a place of hurting anyone, really just taking accountability, learning how to say things in a way that it represents who I am, but doesn't have to be malicious. It comes from a place of like really just taking your space in this world, saying, I belong here. I believe that what I believe is truth is needing to be heard, and I have a right to say it. It's things of that nature that unlock this throat. And when I unlocked my throat, I also unlocked my ears, and that's what helped me start to learn how to, not learn how to channel, but I started being able to channel too. And what I will say to you is that this is what I mean about actual application. You know, I'll be honest, when this happened to me 4 years ago during, it started off in COVID, right? I can honestly say that I was somebody that swallowed a lot of stuff. I lived in a world of people that didn't, love who I was. I had to hide who I was all the time. I always had to feel like I had to fit in and get along. You know what I mean? I worked in a career I didn't love. I had family members that I would just pacify and just get through and just loathe seeing. You know what I mean? And not for nothing, all of that could have stopped at any time. So the real failure was not on them. It was on me as an individual. Did it take me 36 years to get to that level? Yes, but that's what I'm saying. God brings us through all these transgressions, all these things to, bitch smack you awake and say, wake up, little Susie. It's your time to shine. It's your time to call back your power and say, hey, I have a purpose here. I have a reason to be here. I don't have to, dote and kiss ass and do all these things and fear that no one's going to love me forever. We all have these underseated fears within us. And I'm just maybe honest enough to say them. But it doesn't mean that it's not true. You could point your finger and be like, oh, look at this jack off who's like admitting things. I'm stronger than that. No, I'm sorry, Susie, Danny, Bobby, whoever you are, you're not. Because none of us are. The minute we were disconnected from source, the minute we came into the utero, we were kids, we had that foundation, and slowly it withered away. If we were all these strong beings, we would love each other. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I know everybody's full of shit. Because realistically, if we were to eradicate all the games and faces and masks and bullshit and strength, who's higher, who's lower, who's this, who's that, who's got power, no power, who's got money, no money, all of it is a facade. And it's keeping us away from two little kids grabbing each other's hands saying, I want to play with you, I like you, in the grand scheme of it all. Because if we were really above it, we would all love each other. We would work copacetically. We would work towards the foundation and the formulation of the human existence. But we're so sucked into our lives. We're so sucked into the egos. We're so sucked into, look at me, 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 me. Even if we don't want to admit it. And it's not wrong to be like that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm trying to say is that the throat is all about you authentically being yourself, no matter how weird, how unpopular, how popular, whatever the case may be, because you don't know who or where you are or who you will be on the other side of that throat opening. Because once you start saying your truth, trust me, truth is not something that people really like. And if they do like it, and you can do it in a gentle way, or you could do it in a way that doesn't go against who you truly are, and you find that balance, your throat can offer you gifts that you don't even know. And all of us have this capability. But I know it starts from all these parts up. And then comes your eye. Your eye comes in when you start doing all the discerning work. The discerning work happens all through the chakra systems. You've been doing it from the root upward, okay? You started telling people, oh, sorry, you're not part of my life anymore. I need to formulate a better route. You're discerning. You started looking at partners a better way, saying, are these people the best thing for me? Am I just sleeping with people so that I will have a warm person in my bed versus what I truly want? That's discerning. When you start to work with your will and you say, I'm going to do what's best for me, and I'm going to go after what my God-given gifts are and what my purpose is, discerning, right? When you start working in the heart and you're not just giving it away because you want something back, or you're just blockading it because you're so scared. Discerning, finding the balance is all about discerning. And then you get here with the throat and you do all that work about speaking your truth, but not overdoing it out of places of like negativity and fear and destruction and sadness and madness and pain and suffering. And you start to really just say who you are in a decently pleasant way, most likely, and in a way that's not there to hurt others. And you're just really just trying to take your place in this, this world, and then not in a place that unbalances others. Discernment. So as you discerned all through these systems and all through these life paths that you've had to achieve, then this comes on. So not only will you be able to discern through people that you meet automatically, you most likely have become way more empathic as a process of going through this whole chakra system. And empathy and being empathic means like you can feel things. I literally can go up to people and know what mood they're in. I can know if they've had a bad day or if they're just disheveled by something. And that is like a skill, and it's a gift that comes with all of this work that you do through the system. And being empathic was either something you were born with, but it's also something that develops. It's also something that you start to walk in deeper and deeper, like water. You start to swim into deeper waters of empathy, and that's what starts to give you clairvoyancy, clairaudiency. You start to feel, see auras, things of that nature, because of how in tune, how empathic you are with people, with the energy around you, with the trees, with the plants, because you've discerned everything, and you're actually showing the most truest and authentic version of you, and this starts to come on because of it. And then last is the crown. And they say it's above, or you can see it as your head. Now, people are like, oh, the crown's about royalty, and you're supposed to just imagine that. No, it's not that, because through this process, the whole chakra system, the whole framework of the house that is you get to the top, you're putting on the roof, the house is almost done. And you realize, yeah, bitch, this is a fucking sick house. I love my house. My house is strong. God gave me all the gifts to make this house a reality. And that's when you start to realize there's more to me than is written on a page. There's more to me than I was told by other people. There's more to me than I can even fathom. And as you do the work, you realize I have a reason to be here. I am loved. I am understood. I am sovereign. I am not just, Ashley Boyle sitting at a cubicle, number 158765543 cattle. No, you end up realizing that your essence, who you are, your soul, everything is so beautiful. It is remarkable. It is a miracle that you even exist. If you really even just think about it, one sperm made it out of millions, to even get you here where you are today. And some of us could be like, well, but really it is. And that remarkable continuance is here sitting in front of me today. And there's no one like you. There will never be anyone like me. There will never be anyone like you. And that's what makes this so beautiful, because we're unique. I can't do what you do. You can't do what I do. You know what I'm saying? So when we realize all of the formulation of what we are, the grace, the beauty, the love, the chemistry, the creativity, everything that is us, the rubrics, the foundation, all of it. We just realize the magic that's within us, and it just opens up. It just opens up like if you could be shooting out the brightest light out of your head. And it's like it's a beacon to the cosmos saying, hey, I woke up. Everybody, I'm here. You know, I'm here. And you really take hold of who you are. And then that's the sovereignty. That's the crown. That's like you putting on the crown going, I know who I am. Sort of. Pretty much. But I know I'm not that little ant I used to think I was, or that little itty bitty. You know, you start to realize, like, I have purpose. I have reason. God loves me. God loves us. We've got something to do here. We're not just, you know, we're the mobilizers, not the immobile. And it's a huge change in perception. It's a huge change in the way you move through your life. So I just want to say that as much as chakras may seem hoity-toity, fluffy, puffy, whatever way you want to say, yes, they are an older, ancient, I think Ayurvedic methodology that was expressed like thousands of years ago. But the simple applications that you can apply within your life to actually aliven them, get them all flowing, get the beautiful river of energy to just pop through your head to the cosmos, to link you back to the eternal, to link you back to God, it's herself, him, herself, whatever you want to call it, the all, the I am that is within you. You realize that you were never unlinked in the first place. You just got all jammed up. And you had a bunch of dams and a bunch of blockades and a bunch of, like, you know, you were all like, you got some scars and but once you heal all that, once you work through all that, then you're free flowing. And it's like a cord that's to the divine. And you can talk to your higher, you can talk to God, you can talk to the angels, you can talk to your guides. It becomes a lot easier. You work through flow versus fear. And the fear I mean is fear of who you are on the outside, fear of being you. So I'll leave you with that. I know this was long, but this is a beautiful journey to follow. If you actually have the want to do it, maybe your solar plexus is already strong and you're like, I want to do this. I really want to get through this. I want to achieve this. So then work on the rest. Everything that I explained, it's all part of that. And I hope this helps, guys. Love you lots. Bye for now.